Welcome back to my channel for this week's Human Design Transit Report. And today is Monday, December 4th, and the new transit begins today. Woohoo! So that's what we're going to be spending most of our time on today, is the transit that begins right now. And if you're new to the transit reports, I highly encourage you to go and watch this video. It's called Human Design Transits, the Essentials You Need to Know. Because I know sometimes people come to the transit reports, they're really interested in them, but they don't really kind of know the foundation to understand how to interpret this and how to make this real for you in your life. So go and watch that. And it's also in the playlist with all the transit reports for 2023. So enjoy. So in the transit we just moved into today, we have a continuation of the collective circuitry being lit up, but there is a change. So in the transit that just ended, we had two different gates, the 9 and the 16, that were both in the logic circuit or the pattern circuit that were lit up. They had a little bit of creative tension between them because of the type of energies of those two gates, but they were in the same circuit. So with the transit that it begins today, we also have collective circuitry lit up. But this time, we have one gate that's in the logic circuit, so that's continuing where we've been, and we've got another one that's in the sensing circuit. So these are basically left brain and right brain energies. And we need both of them. We need all of it, right? And we are blessed to have so many different qualities of energy that we get to explore that human design really maps out for us. And again, we have a kind of creative tension here, both between the logic circuit and the sensing circuit, left brain energy, right brain energy, and also between the qualities of the two gates. So let me just say that when I talk about creative tension, because I talk about it a lot in both the transit reports, but also in my readings and in the classes that I teach, because the creative tension is where we have different qualities of energy that might feel contradictory and sometimes feel like they're in conflict. But the soul curriculum, if you will, of that creative tension is how do we learn to honor and respect and embody and express both, and to have them play nice with each other, and not just play nice, but also realize that they're complements. They're complementing each other. And so that they actually can support each other when we're not trying to say, well, the way I see it is right and the way you see it is wrong. Right? It's not about that. It's about this perspective, this way of seeing things, this way of understanding how reality works is not exactly the same as this other one. Oh, but if we put them together, we get a bigger shared perspective where we can have different qualities of energy still dancing in the same environment, and they can be bowing to each other and honoring each other and even learning from each other. So this is the opportunity that we have when we have creative tension in a chart. And there's always a creative tension in the chart, whether that's a transit chart or a personal chart, whatever it might be. So it's really great to build your skill set, build your capacity to work with that creative tension so that you can really turn it into a great asset for you, and it can be part of your opportunity to really grow through that soul curriculum, rather than feeling like you're constantly kind of being pushed around by energies that feel like they don't go together. I'm going to make a meta comment here about creative tension. And this has to do with the way that Western culture, and particularly consumer culture, really kind of values sameness. It tries to kind of homogenize things, kind of tries to make them the same. This is where we see things that start out as kind of a revolutionary idea or something really different. And it gets the kind of the edges taken off. It gets made a little softer, a little more palatable, a little more saturated in terms of color, so it's easier to sell, right? And so this is one of the things that consumer culture does, right? Is it tries to almost eat anything that's really radical, really different, and then turn it into something that can be sold. Yeah. So, but one of the outcomes of that is that we have challenges with diversity. And I'm not just talking about racial diversity or gender diversity or religious diversity. I'm just talking about difference. Just like being able, for example, to hold the creative tension of two very different energies that don't seem like they go together, right? We can't immediately see the harmony. We see the conflict. So this happens between people. It happens inside of ourselves. It happens in cultures. It happens between nations, right? Where we have this challenge, we feel safer when things are the same. Because then we think we know what it is. I know what I'm dealing with. Things that are really different, I don't know what I'm dealing with. And this is a lot of conditioned perspective. Okay, I'm not saying that this is accurate or this is real even. But when it comes to creative tension that you find in your own chart or you find in a transit chart like we have here, notice if you have a tendency to want to be like, can it just be all work out just nice? Can it just be simple? Can it just be harmonious? Guess what? Life isn't like that. Life is not like that, even though, like I said, the march of Western culture, the march of empire, and especially consumer culture has tended to kind of make you think that that's the way things should be. But the truth is that we thrive with diversity. As soon as you go out into the living world, you walk into a forest and you're just impacted by the massive diversity of what's going on in there, right? Or if you learn about what's going on in the ocean, it's like as soon as you step out of the way that we've been conditioned, you realize that diversity is not just our birthright. It's what creates true health, is diversity. So like when you get monocultures, that's when you have problems in farms, which unfortunately is the way a lot of commercial farming goes this way. But it's a lot of the reasons we have the challenges that we do, is this idea of sameness, this monoculture, right? So my invitation to you is to really embrace creative tension as a way to build your skill set and your capacity around working with diversity, working with things that are different from each other. And you can then apply that to all kinds of different things in your life. So this isn't just about you getting what's going on with the sun and the earth gates during this transit. It's really an asset for you in your life in terms of being able to work with that kind of tension and recognize there's nothing wrong with there's that tension, and the impulse to try to make it the same or harmonize it isn't necessarily the right thing. It's much more about being able to expand so that we can be the space for lots of different qualities of energy, lots of different opinions, lots of different shapes and sizes and colors of people, lots of different things happening in our ecosystems, and to honor that and respect it and to enjoy it. So today the sun moves into the gate 5. And the gate 5 is on the sacral center, and it's in the logic circuit or the pattern circuit in quantum human design. And it's known as patterns or consistency. This is a really beautiful energy that's connected actually to the cycles of the living world. Like when the sun comes up, when the sun goes down, how it changes seasonally, how it changes over the course of a year. Okay, this is a lot about that. And people who have this defined in their charts do really well when they have a kind of regular schedule, because it helps them to be consistent and it helps them to align with the rhythms of the world. Now, of course, things change seasonally unless you're on the equator. But pretty much everywhere off of the equator, right, we have, longer days in the summer and shorter days in the winter. So that consistency doesn't mean you're going to get up necessarily at 6 o'clock every single day all year long. You may change that, right, depending on when the sun gets up, right? Sometimes you might get up earlier, sometimes you might get up later. So I'm not talking about that. But there is a value to this consistency that helps our physiology, for one thing, know when to expect things. Like, know, okay, we're going to wake up at this time. Oh, we're going to eat now. We need to be able to digest now. Oh, we're going to go exercise now. That's what's going to happen. And there's something really calming to the physiology when we're a bit more consistent with our schedule. So this 5 is going to be inviting you to take a look at what is your relationship to the rhythms of nature. Are you aligning with the rhythms of nature, or are you working against them? Do you have consistency in your life in places where it would help you to have consistency or not? So for example, we're coming into the solstice in another couple of weeks here in actually all around the world, but we're coming into the winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere. And so we're going to have the shortest day and the longest night when we hit that solstice. And so our days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And the question is are you still staying up until midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock because you have heat, because you have electricity, because you have the internet, because you have streaming, right? Or are you going, yeah, it's getting dark earlier and earlier. I'm going to start going to bed earlier and earlier, right? Like, are you paying attention to that or not? Because it doesn't make it easier to have the holidays at this time of year, because those tend to be like, oh, we're going to stay up late and we're going to party and, all of that. So just pay attention. How does it feel in your body if you're not paying attention to what's going on out there and you're just kind of doing things the same way that you always do? Or maybe you even, take advantage of having some time off work and, stay up even later, right? Not getting enough sleep. Because wintertime is really a time to get deep, deep rest. We really need that deep, rejuvenating, restorative rest that we get from hibernating. So check that out for yourself and see what is your inner authority telling you, right? So make sure whatever your type is, whatever your authority is to be tuning in to see, well, what would really be suitable for me? Now, the one caveat for this is if you have the gate 15 defined in your chart, because the gate 15 is extremes, and it's hard for people who have the gate 15 defined in their chart a lot of times to find that consistency. So that's the one caveat that I want to have. But just know that this is going to be asking all of us to be just kind of looking at our routines and do our routines work for us? Do we need to adjust them at all because of the time of year? Obviously, if you're in the southern hemisphere, your days are getting longer and longer and longer, and you might just be staying up later and later and later because, it's times where, it may not even get dark until 10 p.m. I mean, I know I grew up in Seattle in the summer. I was even there in Seattle this last summer, and I remember there still being light in the sky at like 11 p.m. So if you're on the opposite, you can be looking at that and saying, is that suiting you? Does that feel right to you? And not just kind of go along with what everybody else is doing, and also not just being unconscious about it, but paying a little bit of attention. That could really provide you with a big payoff. So where the 5 helps you tune into patterns, right, of this circuit, and it helps you to develop this consistency and routines. The Earth in the gate 35, and it's in the sensing circuit, and it's on the throat. It's up here on the throat. And while the Earth is lighting up this 35, we're going to have a complete channel that's going from the emotional solar plexus up into the throat, because Neptune has been lighting up the gate 36, which is on the emotional solar plexus. Neptune's been there for a long time. It's going to still be there. But the Earth is just going to be here for these 5 days or so. And so we're going to have this lit up. And so we have this whole channel. One of the things that you might notice just in terms of this channel is you might find it a little easier to express your emotions than you usually do if you don't have this channel or the 1222 defined in your chart. So if you have been feeling like is there any backlog that you have about expressing your emotions? This could be a good time for you to make a date with people that you need to talk to so you can get current with them and expressing whatever it is that you need to express emotionally. Now, of course, we know that anything having to do with the emotional solar plexus needs time. And so you really want to make sure you're doing this at the right time, that the conversation is set up in a way that's going to be successful. People are receptive and all of that. So it doesn't mean, it's defined, so I'm just going to dive right in without thinking about all of those things. You don't want to do that. But you are going to have some extra support for really being able to express those emotions if you feel like that's something that would be beneficial for you right now. So the gate 35 is known as the gate of change in traditional human design and the gate of experience in quantum human design. And as I said a minute ago, it's in the sensing circuit. So sensing is right-brained energy, comes in through the right brain, crosses over, comes over around the left-hand side of the body and up through the central channel. And that 35 is right there, having received this energy coming in and then through the throat. The sensing circuit, it's also known as the miracle circuit in quantum human design, is experiential, it's embodied, it's abstract, it's creative, it's intuitive, it's very connected to the living world, for example, and it's connected to the all that is. Jill Bolte Taylor, in her book Whole Brain Living, talks about how the emotional center of the right brain is the place that we access when we meditate, and we aim to get into that place where we can connect with the unified field, which is what the quantum physicists call it, or the Vajrayana, the great cosmic womb, which is what the ancient yogis called it, right? But is just this sense of being in the pure consciousness of the all that is. And so that right brain helps us to get there. Then the 35 is this energy that's like, let's experience things, let's try things out, let's engage with life. It's not logical, it's not rational, it's not strategic, right? Which is more like what the 5 is going to be, because it's in that logic circuit. So you could start to feel some creative tension here between the left brain and the right brain energy. Because that left brain energy, particularly the way we've been conditioned to use it, I don't know that this is inherent in left brain energy, but this is how we've really been conditioned in Western culture, is to see it as because it's very related to the scientific method, right? It's like, can we count it? Can we quantify it? Can we categorize it? Can we replicate it? How do we know if it's true? Well, we have to be able to test it. We have to be able to test it multiple times in order to be able to validate it, to know that it's true, right? Whereas the right brain energy, it doesn't care about any of that. It's like, let me try it out and see how it feels, right? That's much more what it's like. It's not concerned about analyzing it that way or being able to replicate it or anything like that. So you could have a little bit of creative tension between them, although that 5 is probably the least analytical of all of the gates in the logic circuit, I think, because it is really connected to that natural world. And as I said a moment ago, that sensing circuit is also, it's more experiential and it's more connected to the living world and more connected to the all that is. So there is a sense of simpatico-ness between these two gates to some degree. So the earth and the gate 35 is asking us to really ground ourselves in the sense of the value of our own experience. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we are taught to look outside of ourselves for what's true. We're taught to look outside of ourselves for what's valid, for knowledge, for information, for affirmation, for recognition, for acknowledgement, like all that stuff, right? We're taught to look outside of ourselves like that. And when we do that, if we accept that conditioning, then we tend to downgrade the value of our own experience. But one of the things human design really, really encourages us to get is how important our life experience is. Because our life experience is also deeply influential with how we experience our human design. So this 35 is really asking you, like, what experiences are you valuing? What experience do you want to have? What do you maybe want to change from where you've been experiencing things this way, and you want to change and experience things that way? So it's interesting because we've got consistency on the 5 and we've got change in the 35, right? So as I mentioned a minute ago, though, the 5 can change. That, what we think of as consistency, it can change if the conditions are right. But the 35 can be asking you, what's your experience? Is what you've been doing consistently working for you? If not, how about trying something else? How about exploring and experiencing something else? How about just checking it out and seeing? So the 5 might be a little like, yeah, but I like consistency. So, but then I can go, I don't know, maybe something else would be better. Let's give it a shot. And just remember, whether you have this defined in your chart or not, this is going to be influencing everybody, right? And especially if it's open in your chart, like both of these gates are open in my chart, I'm going to feel this a lot. And I'm going to feel this a lot because I don't have that channel defined in my chart either. And I don't even have the emotional solar plexus defined. So I'm going to be starting to feel more emotions because I'm going to have my emotional solar plexus defined during this transit. So just remember, this is going to be going on for everybody around you as well as inside of you. And the more aware you can be and the more that you understand these things, the better off you're going to do. Okay, many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.